This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7 a.m. Thursday, August the 7th. It is the first day of school for my family. Don't know if it's your children's first day that they'll be heading off to school. Goodness gracious, it feels early, but it is day one. So I'll be dipping out here in a few minutes to get the kids to school. First and only time in their lives that they will all three be in the same school. So that'll be,
Really?
Yeah, that'll be weird. That'll be fun. That'll be cool. We've talked a lot about it. So going to be very different and maybe a little bit easier. But then after that, it won't happen again unless one decides to take a long time in college and they all end up at the same college, which seems doubtful. Just doesn't seem likely for some reason or whatever reason. But we got a lot to get to today. McElroy flying to Dallas today for some reason, and he'll be joining us from the airport a little after 8 a.m. So we'll all reconvene here at least for around the 9 o'clock hour, if not a little bit more than that. So we got a lot to get to, a lot of college football to discuss. We've obviously been at our college football seminar the last couple of days. Been really cool. We had all the conference commissioners join from the Power Four. Got to hear from all of them. Got to talk about different things, where we're headed. Have you guys seen this Netflix show yet on the SEC, the SECU? I believe that's what it's called. It's called SECU. Is that the name of it?
No, any given Saturday.
Got it. Same thing. Yeah, that too. I haven't had a chance to see any. Haven't had a chance to watch any. Have you guys had a chance to check any of this out? It's making a lot of noise, I feel like. A lot of people chirping about it, talking about it. And maybe, you know what, now that I think about it, it's just the people who are in it are sharing themselves in it.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we're talking about it so much.
Yeah, I've seen the first two episodes. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and watch the full thing. But it's like your typical documentary where they kind of look at some of the things, because not all 16 teams are, I guess you'd say, represented. But the first ones, you got LSU, and you also have Vanderbilt's in episode 3, I believe. But it's like LSU, South Carolina, the first two teams they really focus on. And I mean, they kind of just let their hair down a little bit. Like you see Garrett Nussmeier talking to Whit Weeks about, am I going to the draft? Or, I'm thinking, how does this season going to look, going into everything. But it's nothing that I really necessarily was surprised at so far. Like, it's kind of just a typical documentary.
Okay. But like no extra behind the scenes that we feel like we have to see or that we haven't seen before, or things that we don't know, things of that nature.
So far, nothing yet,
nothing yet.
But there's still several more at least I got to get through.
Well, the Vanderbilt part is leading into the Bama game, correct?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's episode 3, and I hadn't gotten a chance to see that one yet.
All right, so I'm going to try to check it out this weekend, get into it a little bit this weekend. If you guys have heard it, 800-239-9569. Let us know your thoughts. I want to know if it's a must-see, if it's something that you'll casually watch. And with the kids going back to school today, I might actually be able to get some television in at some point and be able to watch a little bit of it. A few other things around college football that we want to get to. I want you two to give me your opinion, and I want to hear the opinion of the listeners of where the ACC is going as it pertains to replay. I am of the belief, and not just because it's my opinion, that this has a lot to do with the XFL/USFL/UFL and what we have seen from Dean Blandino and the guys, and being able to have that access to not only what the actual officials are saying about a call, but what Dean is basically saying through his entire process of reviewing a call. Now, you're not going to get all of the review per se, but you are going to be able to hear exactly what people are saying as far as the refs and how they're looking at different plays. For ESPN's Friday night ACC games and the ACC Network's primetime Saturday broadcast are going to let viewers hear real-time deliberations between the on-field referee, the press box replay official, and the league's command center in Charlotte. So this is going to let you know and get an idea and be behind the scenes of exactly how these decisions are made. I personally feel like what people think would happen if you do this, the exact opposite takes place. I think that the fear in doing this is that you're going to hear something you're not supposed to hear. There's going to be some sort of communication that makes people feel like these officials are faulty in some way, when I believe what I've seen in exact reverse, fellas, is that the clarity that you get, whether you agree with the call or not, hearing how they talk through it, especially if you get somebody as good as Dean Blandino, who can verbally walk you through what he sees, why he makes a call, why he's not going to make a certain call, why he is going to make a different call, why he's not going to allow something to go through. And then there you have it. Whether you agree with it or not, I think the clarity and transparency that's offered there removes a lot of the conspiracy theory, removes a lot of these guys aren't qualified to do this, removes if we don't get full-time referees, our game's going to be ruined. Whatever the mindset is around this, I think it actually takes it all away. Because just that clarity and transparency allows people to say, okay, I might not like the call, because let's be honest, a lot of times when people say they disagree with the call, more times than not is because they're mad about the call. It's not necessarily that they disagree with the technicalities of how the call was made. So I think a lot of times when you see that, it immediately allows you to say, okay, I don't like this. And you know what? I'm not sure I would have called it that way. But since I heard how this actually went and they walked me through the steps of why they made the call, is what it is. Let's move on. We'll be okay. So I think this is a brilliant move by the ACC. I understand that some people, their reputations are now going to be on the line and it's going to be out there for everybody to see. But we've now seen this I'm trying to think. I came back and did the XFL in 20, and then it got shut down, and then it came back in 22? So like we've done 5 or 6 years of this. And have you guys seen a problem?
Nope.
Like, where's the one that's gone viral of the refs not knowing what they're doing? Like, where's the replay official that didn't know how to do something, and all of a sudden everybody made fun of him? Because you guys know, like I do, that would have been all over the place.
Yeah, It hadn't been in the UFL.
Nope.
It's been other places, but not the UFL.
So I think this is a brilliant idea by the ACC. I do understand the hesitation by some, and maybe the hesitation is by some of the officiating groups in certain leagues. But are you guys with me that this is? I mean, Damien, this is something that I think is going to change the viewing habits of a lot of people. And I don't think there's really any negative that can come out of it.
Yep, I'm with you, man. I thought the UFL did a perfect job, because if there was a foul or there was a flag, and if there was like a challenge or anything, you would hear the discussion. You would hear the discussion from the head of officiating, what the officials are looking for. Hey, look at 64. Is okay? Well, I see a lot of hand fighting. I see, like, okay, did his arms get extended? Like, they're walking you through exactly what their process is, why the flag should be picked up, why the flag should stand, where are they are we gonna respot the ball? This is where the clock is. They're taking a look at everything. And I'm with you. The more transparency we get, the more like, okay, this is what they're looking at. This is what they're looking for. Now it makes sense why this rule is going to stand, or why they're going to pull the flag. And I'm with you. I think they should do it as much as they possibly can to truly show, like, hey, the referees are this is their thought process. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to stand. And I think it's a good look.
Yeah, John, I just think that while you may hear a little bit of a back and forth that we kind of laugh at or people can make fun of, it's not going to bring any extra conspiracy theories into how these guys operate. I mean, Greg and I have been, I think because we've both served as officials in spring games, we've been a little bit lenient on officials. We try to tell people this is a lot different than you imagine. It's a lot, the process of how you do it, what you do, what you're supposed to see, and what you can actually see is very different than what you see on television. But I just think that this only gives people a better idea of exactly what these officials are having to do and what they're going through. And more importantly, how they make a call. Not what call they make, but how they make the certain calls that they do.
The one thing I wish that they were doing is that it would be all across the board. I don't like that it's only on certain games, because I feel like for the conspiracy theorists that may not like it, like, oh, it's on the big game, so they've got to make sure that, cleansing is the right call, or whomever. If it were all across the board, now they may not have the technology, they may not have the bandwidth, the capability to do all of their games. But it is a step in the right direction. If there was some sort of preseason or something, I'm sure they would kind of do a soft rollout and then be able to bring it out to the whole league. But because college doesn't have that, it's kind of like we just got to do it on the fly. So I'm okay with it, because I've seen it work and work well in the UFL, and I don't see why it wouldn't work, at least in this level.
I agree with you on where it's going to be. It does feel like, okay, what are we trying to hide by not having it in other places? But as we know, all conferences are going to govern things themselves. We very often or very few times get something blanketed across college football as far as rules and how things are managed and governed from the conference levels at least. And I don't think this is something that the NCAA could ever levy down because they don't have the individual media rights deals that a lot of the conferences have. So we want to hear from you as well. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. If you like this, if you don't like this, we want to hear what are your thoughts. Is this going to lead to other conferences giving us more transparency with their officiating? And that's not just the crews on the field, but going back to those replay centers and maybe even the replay official in the stadium. That's one thing that will be different is, Dean Blandino and those guys, they're back in LA every week. They're never at the games. And now you're going to get replay officials at the game that are also going to be communicating. You're going to hear talking about certain things and then potentially also hear from their replay center in Charlotte. So could be multiple lines of communication that you're going to have to pay attention to, listen to. And I mean, we only wish we had this on one certain Friday night a year ago in Miami, Florida, to be able to go back and forth and listen to how we were discussing the Virginia Tech Miami finale and how that game ended and what that came down to, just to be behind the scenes and hear what was being discussed, I think, because a lot of us left that game like, how do you make a call here? Like, how do you overturn this? How do you uphold this? Because the line of sight in all the reviews didn't really give you a clear picture, in my opinion, of what it was going to be. So we'll get that from the ACC, which I think is great. I think it's going to be something that people are going to watch. Maybe they hadn't watched a lot of spring football, hadn't seen what this is all about. They'll see it now and say, man, can the SEC do this? Can the Sun Belt do this? Can the Big Ten do this? We want everybody to do this because it's incredible. And when you get that first idea of what it looks like, I think it only makes you want more, to be perfectly honest with you. I wanted to hit something else with you guys that I saw yesterday, and that was some commentary coming from Marcus Spears on Brian Kelly. And my first question is just going to be, where do you guys think Brian Kelly is right now? Because we see all these lists before the season, hot seat, not going to make it, job security, whatever that is. Do you guys view Brian Kelly as at all on the hot seat or having to win a certain amount of games this year or having to accomplish something from a championship or postseason perspective to maintain his job? John, where do you view sort of Brian Kelly's tenure in Baton Rouge as we stand here today?
It feels a lot like he's, I don't want to say underachieved, but maybe the expectations were so high right out the gate. I mean, you made it to Atlanta in your first year, and then you have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. It's like, okay, but what all do they have to show for it? So I get why LSU fans are maybe potentially putting him on the hot seat, but also this is what, third, fourth year or so? Like, this does feel like it should be whether or not, like, this should be a make or break year. Like, all right, you've had your time, you got your players in, you've got kind of everything you wanted. Now we should be seeing the results that we kind of paid and expected for, and with that, we should be looking at, if not a playoff berth, maybe potentially a deep run, another time in Atlanta. It feels like the expectations are there. I'm not ready to say that, okay, if he doesn't do that, ship him out. But I get why the Cajun faithful feel that way because of the hot start and really where the expectations were set from the three previous coaches because they all have a ring. And as of right now, Brian Kelly doesn't.
All right, Damian, where do you sort of view Brian Kelly and where he is from a job security standpoint in Baton Rouge as we sit here today? What are we now, 17 days until kickoff?
Mm-hmm. I look at it as what else does he need besides just the SEC championship or a national championship? Because first 2 years you win 10 games. Last year, yeah, you probably felt like, man, you let a few games slip away. But they're still right there amongst the cream of the crop of the better teams in the SEC, really in the nation. And I think that, yeah, by, I guess you say LSU standards or expectations, he's kind of, quote unquote, underachieved. But also he's like, what else? Who else could you go after? Like, where else do you think you could go and have this immediate success that he's had, because he's 29-11 in 3 seasons as the head coach. Like, anywhere else, that's pretty damn good. And at LSU, it should be looked at as being pretty good as well. But also, damn, what else am I supposed to do? Like, I
go back to this sort of retraining of our brains, and I understand that Brian Kelly's his tenure at LSU may have started just before we really needed to start doing this. But we look at last season, knocking on the door of the college football playoff. That's one that I think, if you're an LSU fan, you kind of need to look at it a little bit of a different way than maybe you are right now in its totality. You're 9-4. I'm going to go back again. The SEC champions had 1 fewer loss than you did. I mean, Georgia was 11-3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee was in the playoffs at 10-3 last year. I understand Texas was also in the SEC championship game, but they didn't win it. We've said the same thing to Alabama fans. 9-4 last year, not good enough. Okay, well, the SEC champions were 1 game better than Alabama when they played in Atlanta. 1. And maybe that's not enough. Maybe that's a big differential. But Marcus Spears, who knows, obviously, the temperature of college football in Baton Rouge and at LSU, played there, had this to say about how things probably need to go for Brian Kelly this year earlier this week on Get Up.
LSU is in that window now, and Paul and Heather knows this as well as anybody, where if you don't win big, if you're Brian Kelly, this fan base is done. And I'm just telling you, the wins and the success and all of the things, going to the SEC championship, your first year was great, but people still didn't feel like that was like a big time accomplishment based on how it happened. This year, you see all of the transfers, you see the recruiting class, Garrett Nussmeier in the preseason Heisman conversation. All of those things in the past at LSU has aligned with them having big seasons. It doesn't guarantee a championship, but it should guarantee you being a playoff contender. And if they are not, if they on the outside looking in the playoffs, this fan base is going to turn quickly on Brian Kelly. And it's almost like it's been situations where they've been waiting to do it. This will be that inflection point if LSU doesn't win big this year. I'm telling y'all what I know, not what I think.
Okay, well, part of this is just go ahead and lump LSU in with every other SEC team that has had success and has high expectations, named Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Auburn, any of them. Now, maybe Ole Miss fans, with the recent success that Lane has had, that's been very different from what has consistently happened in the past, may start to act this way. But any of those schools that have been in contention, I'll lump Oklahoma and Texas into there as well. You expect to win a national title most years, be in contention for one. But the issue there with what Marcus said was they were in contention for a playoff spot last year. Am I wrong? They were right there looking.
And maybe that's some of the frustration too, is that they've under Brian Kelly they've fallen short. Granted, yes, they probably got there sooner than expected. They made it to Atlanta, but they lost. Like LSU was there. They were in playoff contention, not unlike Alabama, not unlike Texas A&M last year. But when it came down to it, not only did you lose, but you had a dumb loss in there too, a lot of times. So a lot of things that were just preventable, but they're at that level to where they feel like they shouldn't be doing this.
It feels like the biggest problem for LSU has just been the opener under Brian Kelly.
Yep.
I mean, plain and simple. You had USC on the ropes. You were pounding the football. I don't know if folks remember that game a year ago in Las Vegas where it felt like LSU was picking up about 7.5 per clip on the ground, and then which would then tell the story of the rest of the season for the Bayou Bengals. They stopped handing it off. And that would be the story essentially for their offense for the rest of the season last year. But you had some nice wins. The Texas A&M win, another one where you could probably look at how you manage play calling. And then you lost 3 straight late. Alabama put it on them. Florida handed it to them, which Florida was, I think, kind of a different team late in the year last year when you look at what they did to LSU and what they did to Ole Miss. So Okay, you didn't like the way things finished up last year, but once again, you can't say in contention for a playoff spot because LSU was being discussed for that towards the end of last year. Here's how I weigh it. It's the same thing with Alabama last year and the people who are disappointed there. Would you have rather have been Texas? Would Texas's season or Georgia's season have been satisfactory? Now Georgia got an SEC title, so that's where it's different. So maybe we take Texas and Tennessee. And you look at the record and people say, "Oh, LSU 9-4, not good enough." So you're saying that they need to win one more game and just get into losing the first round of the playoffs? I don't. That's where I think the retraining of the brains has got to be just a little bit different because, and I understand where the flip side of that's going to be, Damian, is that, well, no, 12 teams can get into the playoff now, and if we can't be one of those 12, we've got bigger problems.
Right.
And that's where the issues are. But when you also weigh in transfer portal, roster management, all those different things, it's being one of the best 12 teams. I'm sorry, because we know the best 12 teams don't necessarily get in. Being one of the 12 teams in the college football playoff now, as opposed to if the exact same guidelines were in place 8 years ago, is a very different story.
Yep. And I think that's where, and I agree with you, I think that's where LSU fans kind of feel like, how can we take a step back in certain situations and still not find ourselves as one of the 12 teams to be playing for a college football playoff? And again, like to your point, don't have that loss to USC to start the season. Don't let Texas A&M beat you up on the road in Kyle Field. Don't let Florida absolutely manhandle you when they're starting to get their groove back. And then you don't have those conversations. But they happened, and like you said, now they're on the outside looking in. The things that they can control, which is winning and losing, most of the times some of the times they've ended up on the losing side of things. And it happens. And you go through the gauntlet of the SEC, like I think of what happened against Alabama kind of just gut punched them a good bit. Like it just took the air out of them because it's like, wait a minute. Not only did they beat us, like they absolutely mopped the floor with us, and we're supposed to be one of the better teams. And it just kind of everybody points the finger at Brian Kelly of, so what's going on? And I think that because of all the success that we've seen, most of it has been on the defensive side for LSU. Last year just looked completely different, where it's like, man, like how bad are we? So it's just, I think that LSU fans just are uncomfortable of how it looks because the perception, their perception is, oh, we're not that good. But in reality, it's, no, you're also still one of the better teams that's playing college football. It's just you lost a couple games.
The weather looks a little warmer today, and don't let that Alabama heat and humidity get to your family. It can be brutal. Keep them comfortable with an affordable Trane cooling system recognized as America's most trusted brand, 11 consecutive years, and they're the official cooling partner here at Jocks. Find a comfort specialist near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a train. We'll talk a little more LSU, the expectation of that football team this season, next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Greg on his way to Dallas. He'll join the show around 8 o'clock. I'll be heading out here in a few minutes. First day of school, get the kids to school. I'll be back on the show probably in the 8 o'clock hour as well, definitely for the 9 o'clock hour. We were talking LSU during the break. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. Let us know your thoughts on what Brian Kelly's tenure has been and maybe what it needs to be this upcoming season for him to maintain his job, because some people think when you go back and listen to how Spears said it, almost feel like you could apply that to half the fan bases in the SEC, where they're kind of waiting to explode. Like, think about the fan bases right now in the SEC. Like, I think Elko at A&M, he's kind of out of this. I think Heupel, even though that might be the most toxic fan base in the SEC when things begin to go wrong, I don't think he's anywhere near, if things don't go well this year, them saying, hey, we got to get him out of here. He's done. Now, Alabama, I don't think is there yet. But we know that fan base can be as unrealistic as any in college football at times, have been in the past. But Kentucky, we've already heard those conversations. Auburn, we've heard those conversations. Oklahoma, we've heard those conversations. Arkansas, we've heard those conversations. We just mentioned that LSU is in that category. I don't think Georgia's going to be there. I don't think Texas is there with Sark. So that's, I mean, I think Drink's fine in Missouri. He's exceeded all the expectations. I don't think there's anyway. Beamer, I think, has enough good faith with the South Carolina fan base that they're not ready to do this just yet. But this is half the fan bases in the league. I mean, if Jeff Lebby has a year like he did last year, halfway through it, they're going to start saying, all right, is this the guy? Are we ready to go? So this whole sitting on the edge of the seat for a fan base is waiting to get mad at the coach. I think we could almost describe half the league like that right now. Where am I wrong? I mean, is there one that I said that should get a pass that you guys don't think gets the pass? Is there one that I said those fan bases are sitting on the edge of their seat and would go after that coach that maybe isn't? I don't know, John. I mean, I feel like you got at least maybe 7, if not 8 teams in the league right now. When things start to go bad, or if things start to go bad this year, that fan base is going to fit the exact description that Marcus Spears just laid out for LSU fans.
There's a reason our slogan is it just means more. I mean, most teams out there outside of the conference in 3 years having a conference championship appearance and a Heisman Trophy winner will be more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly not enough for LSU fans heading into the season right now. And
so that brings me to my next question, John. I'm sorry to interrupt you. And I'll leave you guys with this, and you guys can take calls and look at tweets about it, wherever you want to go. What is realistically satisfactory for an SEC fan base in this new age of college football? Is it just making the playoff? Is it still winning a national championship? Because we know, I mean, hell, it's been hard for a decade now. It's harder now. I mean, none of us really thought that Ohio State, it's a 14 playoff last year, they're not in. They don't even make it. And then they go win it, and they win it convincingly. So to even have the fortune of being ready to go on a run like that, having the players that can go on a run like that, and then doing it in the postseason, it's more difficult than it's ever been right now to win a national championship, specifically with roster turnover, where the portal is, different things of that nature. Having guys that are interested, how guys are coached, it's tough right now. So what is satisfactory for SEC fan bases? And I know it'll be a little bit different for some than others, but is it just the postseason as far as the playoff every year? Does the SEC championship game have anything to do with that statement at all? Because it used to be, well, we got an SEC title, so we're good. I don't even know how fans look at that anymore, how they view that anymore. Well, let the guys take over. When we get the kids to school, be back with you in a little bit. John, Saber, and the boys. Damian going to take it through the rest of this hour. GMAC will be on around 8. He's on his way to Dallas. All that and more next right here on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
7:35 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Call out the dip off, drop the kids off to school. As we know, first day of school here. That's how I kind of know this is how I know we're in a new year. Like when I look at, football season, the start of school, that's how I know, like, all right, it's 2025 now. Like I'm 8 months into the year, and now I can officially say, yeah, the new year is here.
Yeah, no, I mean, high school football is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get started very, very soon here in just a couple of weeks, which is always very exciting. But yeah, I mean, it's coming along quickly here, and we've got, even looking at the college ranks, right? You got scrimmages coming up. You got Auburn tomorrow, Alabama on Saturday. So this is it. Like you've gotten through kind of that beginning period. I know at least for Alabama, right? They were in full pads yesterday, so you are in the middle of it. You are in the thick of it right now, and I think we all agree this is our favorite time of the year, and it's nice that it's not 100 degrees outside either.
Absolutely, that voice you hear is one Conrad Van Order, getting a chance to hop in with us as you usually hear him on Morning Jocks from 6 to 7 with me, as well as 3-man front from 10 to 2. So we appreciate him hopping in with us. And I don't know if you got a chance to hear it, but we were discussing LSU. And it started to turn into a conversation. Okay, why, quote unquote, why is Brian Kelly on the hot seat?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the success he's had, or even the failures that he's had since he's been at LSU, is it unrealistic, or is it kind of just an unfortunate situation why he finds himself, quote unquote, on the hot seat while being one of the more successful coaches in college football right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hot seat talk with Brian Kelly. Look, I'll say this: I don't think if LSU misses the playoff this year, they're necessarily going to fire Brian Kelly. I do think that next year you're going to have some question marks. Because the other thing you have to remember is, who knows? Maybe they are able to reload and bring somebody in, and it's just business as usual. But Garrett Nussmeier is going to be gone after this year, and so you've had Jaden Daniels, you've had Garrett Nussmeier, who we all expect to be one of, if not even the best quarterback in college football this year. So if that's your track record and that's what you've had to work with, and you still haven't been able to make it to the playoff for Brian Kelly, I think that's where the frustration sits in. And we all, I think most of us are aware, the 3 coaches before him all won a national championship, and I would say, I think we all agree Nick Saban is the greatest, if not, one of the greatest coaches of all time. But I think Brian Kelly's a better coach than Les Miles or Ed Orgeron, and they were able to win championships. Now, I understand it's a different era. Ed Orgeron would not have won one if it wasn't for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I think we all certainly can agree on that. But I think that's where you start to get the hot seat conversation is why have you not been able to meet the standard of the guys that came before you? Oh, and by the way, we think you're better than any of those coaches we've really had in the last 20 years. So I think that's where the pressure sits in. His first year, right? You beat Alabama, you go to the SEC championship game, you feel like, man, this was a great first season, and you haven't even been able to get back to that point since then. So I think all of that combines to put him in a pressure situation. And let's not act like if they don't win against Clemson in week 1, I'm not saying that that's a game that should necessarily be held against them, because I think Clemson is one of the best teams in the country. I think LSU is as well. But that's going to be the narrative, right? Is why can't we win these season opening games? Why are we starting every season behind the 8 ball if you're Brian Kelly? And let's be honest, LSU has expectations. And in my opinion, I think they view themselves very similarly to an Alabama fan base, a Georgia fan base, a Texas fan base, where you expect to be in the playoff, like bare minimum, you're expecting to be in the playoff every year, and you haven't been able to make it a single time under Brian Kelly. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. But we know, hey, winning solves it all, right? You make the playoffs this year, that narrative probably goes away. But if you miss the playoffs yet again with one of the best quarterbacks in the country, what should be an improved defense, the best transfer portal class in the country, people aren't going to be happy about that.
Yeah, and we also brought up kind of, fan bases in the SEC. And we had this discussion about a week or so ago with Greg, where if we looked at the 2025 season, what would be considered a success? And Cole's kind of question right before he got a chance to get out was, okay, what is just satisfactory now in the SEC as far as is just making a bowl game now considered just a successful season? But I think when you look at team by team, it's not, because, okay, if you're Vanderbilt making a bowl game, absolutely, that is a damn near wonderful season.
Yeah.
If you're Kentucky, doesn't even matter if we make it to a bowl game, that's fine. Arkansas has kind of reached that point of, okay, what bowl game are we going to? That kind of, fluctuates here and there. And then you got Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, where we all messed around and won 10 games back-to-back seasons. And, okay, is Missouri now entering that conversation of, okay, are we knocking at the door of a playoff? So when you look at I think it's team by team expectations. And some, whether fair or not, some of them are kind of, I would say, delusional a little bit. Like Texas A&M, for example. They look at themselves as, oh, we should be playing for playoffs. Like, we should be in the SEC championship conversation, things like that. Well, you've never done it. So how is that the expectation?
I think that's okay. So I think that's a good point, because this is what I was going to ask you and say, Bear. Tell me if you agree or disagree with this. So I would say outside of Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt, the other 12 teams in the conference, their fan base's expectation is we should be competing for a playoff spot. And if we are not in that conversation, then this was a disappointing season. And that would include the Texas A&Ms of the world, who, like you said, you've never been there, so why is that the expectation? But that is their expectation every year, right? They always think they're going to be, that this is going to be the year for them. I think even for a team like Auburn, where I think a lot of people would agree, hey, 8-4 would be considered a successful season, but the clock's kind of been ticking. Like, you have an impatient fan base there at Auburn that's looking for that immediate success, and the ceiling this year would be making a playoff. So I think that kind of becomes the expectation. And maybe that's not fair. And like you said, maybe some of those fan bases are a little delusional. But I'm serious. I think the top 12 teams outside of the Vanderbilts, Kentuckys, Mississippi States, Arkansas of the world, I think all of them, at least the majority of their fan bases, kind of playoff or bust.
And this year or in general?
I think kind of in general, because I think a lot of teams now expect that, hey, through the portal, we can have any one year, we can really have a special season, and we can find ourselves in a college football playoff. But I mean, you even go back, and I know we're far removed from this, but like a Mississippi State, right? fun trivia question, they were the first team to ever be ranked number 1 in a college football playoff ranking when that started. Now, I know that was 11 years ago, but you've seen that, right? Kentucky's had multiple 9-win seasons in recent history to where you go, man, if that was a 12 or 16 team playoff type season, maybe we would find ourselves in the conversation. So you have reasons to be optimistic, even if you're living a little bit in the past. There.
Yes, I ask that because I don't feel like Missouri should be there. I don't feel like Missouri should be hey, we expect to be in the playoff or at least contending for a playoff spot every single year.
And maybe not every year, but I think
that's why I was asking. Like, do you mean like specifically this year, or because I think there are some teams like Missouri, like South Carolina, even though I think Shane Beamer thinks this way and he's trying to force that alpha dog mentality onto his fan base. But South Carolina to me is not a team or have expectations to where year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
They are no worse than the 15th team in the nation and flirting with the playoff spot.
That's fair. I guess I'm looking at it moving forward, right? Because that is now the expectation for South Carolina, whereas last year that was absolutely not the expectation. So I think that's a fair point there. I would say with Missouri, I would be curious to hear from Missouri fans. You've won 10 games in back-to-back years now.
So in theory, they should be like, hey, if you have 10 wins, you should be flirting with the playoff spot.
Yeah, exactly. You should be in the conversation.
Yeah. And I think I'm kind of on the same point with you, John, as well. It's like, okay, how much of it have you built this culture into this? Or is this just like what you've done in the past to show that, yeah, we can do this? And I think the biggest thing I think with certain fans is because you've seen it one time, you feel like that is the expectation. Think of Auburn with Gus Malzahn. Year one, they make it to the national championship.
And that becomes the standard, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I think people get lost in. It's because, okay, yeah, you may have had a one-off, you may have done it, but the difficulty of sustaining that is where you get the quote-unquote the dynasties from. It's the, okay, like Georgia, for example. Kirby, when he got there, it wasn't like Mark Richt was terrible, but they could never get over that hump. Kirby gets there. It takes a little bit of time, but now he's reached that point with Georgia of, no, they're one of the best teams in college football year after year after year. It's just plug and play, plug and play, plug and play. And I don't know if the Missouris, the Texas A&Ms, the South Carolinas, the Auburns have reached that point of, oh no, like, yeah, we deserve to be in those types of conversations, because history has shown us, even with no matter how far back you go, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, yeah, you may have one-offs, but it's not the sustained success year after year after year.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that's a good point. I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I think you have a lot of teams now that look at the landscape of college football and say, well, okay, if Indiana made the playoff last year, why can't that be us this year? And I think that's where the expectations for a lot of people come from. And maybe that is more, and I guess I should have said that, and maybe that's more of a year in and year out, or a year-by-year basis, right, not a general expectation for the next 10 years of your program. But I think there is that belief that every given year could be that year for you, because we've seen that with certain teams before. And again, some of these teams have had success in recent history. They're just in a bit of a rut right now. But I think, that's one of the great parts about expanding the playoff is, you have teams that never – Missouri is not a team that probably ever would have seen themselves in a 4-team playoff kind of conversation. But now that it's 12 and potentially going to move to 16 next year, I think you then find yourself with that expectation. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. We'll take a look. We get some of your reaction on the other side. You can text in, call in. Again, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked here on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
7:49 here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Damian, Conrad, and John here with you. I think the guys will be getting back in the huddle with Greg and Cole at some point. 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour. But nonetheless, they shall return. We appreciate them letting us have some fun and kind of just talking about the expectation of certain fan bases and the SEC, talking about LSU and their expectations. Is Brian Kelly deservingly on the quote-unquote hot seat, even though, again, he's 29 and 11 as the head coach at LSU? it doesn't make sense, but again, this is just the nature of college football. Like, I look at it from this perspective. Would you rather be in Hugh Freeze situation or Brian Kelly situation if you're a head coach?
Would you rather be Florida's fan base right now?
Right. Like, Billy was fired at this point last year. Like, it was, so what week are we going to pull the plug?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes out there and pulls off upsets left and right.
But Billy's got there the same amount of time, and Brian's won 10 more games.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 19. Billy Napier's 19-19.
And I understand. Look, the program got pretty bad after Joe Burrow and that group left to win a national championship. Yeah. But I mean, they fired a coach 2 years after he won a national championship. Granted, it was different, and the program definitely took a big dip. But I mean, still, that just kind of goes to show you the expectation of, hey man, we appreciate what you did for us, but yeah, we got to turn this thing around pretty quickly. So I mean, LSU, it's a little different, higher expectations.
Yeah, 205-834-9450. Somebody texted in and says Mizzou has made the SEC championship twice and beat Ohio State in New Year's Six Bowl a couple years ago. They should expect to contend for the 12-team playoff. Yeah, and I think Eli's built that to that point. Yeah, I mean, as comfortable as he was at SEC media days, I think he's firmly in the spot. Like, he's probably going to look at himself in a situation like Mark Stoops, where I have already done more than what anybody expected for me to do here. I'm kind of untouchable at this point.
Oh, he's done more than Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky. And I think I'm not going to be surprised. Look, let's say Missouri goes out this year because they have a very manageable schedule. Let's say they go 9-3 again. They miss the playoff, but they go to a bowl game, get to another 3 straight 10-win seasons. I don't know how long Drinkwitz is going to stay at Miami.
Exactly.
Like, he's going to be on a lot of lists, I would think, to go and get a pretty big-time job in college football. But he's done an incredible job there, and the fact that that is the expectation for a lot of people shows how far he's brought that program.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Kalen DeBoer last year. Like, people say 9-4 is a failure.
Oh, there's some people that want him gone now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
again, Nick Saban went 7-6 his first year.
Correct. Lost to ULM. Mm-hmm.
Vandy, ULM. I see some parallels there. It's okay. Can we get past year one and let it build?
At least Vandy was a conference game.
True. Still
on the
Vandy.
road.
Yeah.
It's still Vandy.
Yeah.
But it was a conference game on the road.
Yeah, ULM didn't have Diego Pavia at the quarterback position.
See, and I know looking back, right, and it'll be funny to see how people look back on that game in 10, 20 years. I still think the Oklahoma game is worse than the Vanderbilt game.
Oh, it was pitiful.
The Vanderbilt game, I mean, it was what it was, right? It was shocking, to say the least, but it was a good, entertaining, competitive football game. The Oklahoma game was not.
No.
That is the worst Alabama football game I think you've seen since maybe ULM.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Some of those USF games, man.
They were uncomfortable.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Was it the Trevor Lawrence one? No, we just
in the national.
One-sided. Granted, yes, national championship.
At least you made it to the national championship that year. But yeah, that was bad.
It was.
In terms of a beatdown, that was.
Man, David from Coleman says Missouri's going 7-5, quarterback and receiver drop off. I still think Eli's going to be just fine with a 7-5. I don't think he's going to worry about too much.
And again, their schedule, if you look at their schedule, it's not
brutal.
No, by SEC standards, it's a very manageable schedule. But hey, they got the Penn State backup. Penn State's the number one team in the country, right? So surely their backup was good.
I've seen a Penn State quarterback transfer into the SEC and have success at Kentucky.
Success?
He got drafted.
He did get drafted.
That's why he's not the starting quarterback now. 205-834-9450. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Chris in Birmingham.
Gentlemen, good morning.
How we doing, Chris?
Man, we brought up this conversation I've been talking about for years now. Comrades, you're proof. When you hear me say taper your expectations when it came to the Bama football expectations for him, because we were talking about a first-year coach, and we're immediately saying world beaters, playoff contenders, because the playoff is expanded. But it's still a first-year coach, and the transfer portal is a thing, and most of those 5 stars have gone on to other teams. Hell, even the bowl game that they lost to the year prior, the year against Michigan with Caleb DeBoer, you were down to your Jalen Buckley being your wideout. So it was prominent to say you should take what you have for now and not put them on a high pedestal just yet.
So what are your expectations for Alabama in 2025?
I would say game improvement so far.
Say that one more time. You cut out.
I would say a 1 game improvement thus far. I don't expect
10 wins?
them to be. Yeah, sure, I'll take it. Well,
then you should be in the playoff.
Build on what you have.
So the playoffs.
Yeah, you said that last year.
But if you win 10, you're definitely in. If you win 10, you're definitely in. Because, I mean, you won 9 and we're on the outside looking.
Yeah, you had first team out last year. I would just say I don't agree with how Chris views that because, yes, you brought in a new coach and as a first-year coach. That coach played for the national championship the year before you hired him at Washington.
Right.
And I know a lot of players left in the portal. Alabama still had a top 5 roster in college football last year, and they didn't make the playoff with a coach that played for the national championship the year before. The expectation should be playoff.
I agree.
I have never bought into the idea that because you had a new coach that should not be the expectation.
Yeah.
Especially, like you mentioned, it's the transfer portal era. Yeah, you lost a good number, but
replace
you easily could get,
Yep.
Absolutely. We'll keep the conversation going on the other side. We'll see you on hold, see you on the text line. Keep it locked here on Mac and Q.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.